Now, I'm sure you've heard of How to Train Your Dragon. I mean, it's the 16th highest grossing animated film franchise of all time. The first movie has a 91% audience score on Rotten Tomatoes, and each film has been nominated for countless awards. It's a classic kids movie with action, adventure, and dragons. Who wouldn't love it? It can even hit adults in the feels with its themes of family, identity, and growing up, and has been appraised for its positive portrayal of people with disabilities. Despite all of the praise for the films, lots of people haven't even heard of the books. I'm not sure about you, but I know many people who think that the movies are the original, and, unsurprisingly, as an avid book reader and a person on the internet, this infuriates me. But T, you say to me, didn't you just outline how amazing the movies were? So surely the films are better than the books, right? Well, in the words of Tom Baker as Captain Redbeard Rum,
That's where you're wrong.
firstly, I want to point out that this is my own opinion as a guy who grew up listening to the books every night, so I'm obnoxiously biased. Now, according to its Wikipedia page, the How to Train Your Dragon films are based on the book series of the same name. But I would more say that they're as if some guy tore up all 12 books, picked a couple of the pages, and made a story up about them. This ends up creating a pathetic patchwork imitation of the series. The books have a much more mature, deep, and yet still playful tone. The movies outline a good example of how any basic story should function and progress, while the books are a spectacular view into tough topics in an intriguing yet funny and stylistic fashion. Currently, in the franchise, there are 3 animated films, 1 live-action film, and 3 TV shows. Meanwhile, there are 12 books and 4 spin-offs, and some of the best audiobooks narrated by David Tennant, who, unsurprisingly, does an amazing job. First, let's have a peek at the characters. In the first book, Hiccup is a 10-year-old, scrawny, odd kid. In the final book, he's only 14 compared to 21 in the last film, so that gives you some perspective. Like the films, he's the son of Stoic the Vast, chief of the Hairy Hooligans, but his mother is Valhalla Rama in the books. He has bright red hair and freckles and an average face, which is, quote, easy to overlook in a crowd. He's your classic nobody turned hero. He is terrible at being a Viking and one of the worst students ever in the pirate training program due to his inability to perform even the most basic tasks in classes. He has a great desire to be ordinary and blend in. However, being the son of the chief gives you a disadvantage in that area. Hiccup is big into natural history and the cataloguing of dragons, and is one of the only people to speak Dragonese, the dragon language. In short, he's a nerd like me. The only thing he is good at is sword fighting, which happens to give you an edge in becoming king of the Wild West. Oh, didn't I tell you this book would have an actual plot? Fishlegs is Hiccup's best friend. Like Hiccup, he is small and skinny. He is quite often described as a bespectacled daddy longlegs, which I always thought was a wild description, but whatever works. He has asthma, eczema, a squint, a limp, and numerous allergies, even to his own dragon. In the early books, his parents are unknown, but later on, we find out that. So that's a wild twist. What, did you really think I was going to give away that big of a spoiler? I made this to get people to read the books. I would never subject anyone to spoilers. Never mind. Fishlegs is a sarcastic, clumsy lad and is often bullied severely throughout the series, until they find out that. Yes, really, we are doing this. See, what I'm doing right now is creating intrigue, which, if you didn't know, is to arouse interest, desire, or curiosity of. Now, hopefully, people will want to actually read the books, and people who have can have a jolly old time, so just shut up. I don't want to spoil people.
Also, I can kill you with my brain.
Anyway, as you can tell already, Fishlegs has been teed up for a right old character arc where he hands. Throughout the books, he's referred to as having berserk tendencies, which aren't just your regular old Deus Ex Machina. No, no, no. It gets quotes like this: "Fatty, lardy bum, who's been having too many second helpings, chief greedy guts of the jelly bellies?" Yes, I can recite that from memory. No, I'm not sorry. Personally, I think the movies made Fish Legs a bit too watered down and less interesting, but they had less time. Kamikaze, yay! Finally onto a character that's not in those movies. And yes, I know that Cressida Cowell had to be pointed out the fact there were no female characters in the first two books, but the fact is that that comment let us get one of my favourite characters in all of the series. Well, I mean, I would say that Fishlegs is also as good, and Toothless, and Hiccup, and Snotlout, Stoic, Alvin, Mogadon, Flashburn, Bones, Fang, Furious. I mean, you get the point. Everyone's great in these books, but Kamikaze's the third of this series' golden trio. She's a small, ferocious blonde girl, about the same age as Hiccup, daughter of Big Boobied Bertha. Yes, that's certainly a name. Who's the chief of the Bogburglar tribe. Kamikaze appears on the surface to be the classic, strong, flawless, boring female character that makes for terrible writing. But throughout this story, she's explored to be a lot more nuanced and quite a compelling character. She's on par with Hiccup at sword fighting and is an escape artist. You know her saying, "You can't keep a bog burglar under lock and key." Now, because she isn't in the movies, for this part I'm going to make a comparison with her nearest counterpart, Astrid. Yes, I know How to Train Your Dragon book fans, I'm dying inside as well, but they need someone to go off of. Astrid is the 15-year-old blonde love interest of Hiccup. It's your classic rivals to lovers arc. She's basically what I described Kamikaze not to be. A strong, flawless, boring female character that makes for terrible writing. Now, don't get me wrong, I like Astrid in the movies. She's fine. She has a few good moments. She actually shows emotion, which is a first in traditional strong female characters. But when you compare her to Kamikaze, especially in her relationship with Hiccup, I know they aged up the characters and made the movies more appealing to teens, but seriously, mate, these books aren't about romantic love. They don't have to be. There's more to life than just a girlfriend. But I get it. It boosts the box office. It's just that these books are about oppression, slavery, family, friends, and standing up to what you believe in. Romance is not essential for a series to be good. The books prove this. Astrid just feels like a safe option. Kamikaze just doesn't just exist to be a crutch for Hiccup. She has development. Astrid ends up being like Katniss Everdeen, stoic, competent, emotionally distant, but minusing that internal conflict that made Katniss interesting. Okay, now we get to Toothless, who I have some of the most problems with the film's depiction of. In the novels, Toothless is described as particularly small, green, and having no teeth whatsoever. Instead, in the movies, he becomes a flashy, sleek, gimmicky sidekick, a large black riding dragon, as opposed to a hunting dragon, that has teeth. This ruins his character. Now, I know what you're going to say. The reason he's called Toothless in the movies is because he can retract his teeth. But that's just dumb and complete bull. More importantly, his size isn't just a joke. It's essential to the story's emotional weight and plot. Hiccup and Toothless are bullied because of Toothless's size and the fact he's a communal garden. There's also the whole thing about Snotlout getting a monstrous nightmare, which should only be for the son of a chief, making Hiccup doubt his role. Additionally, there's another vital plot point that Hiccup had to grab Toothless randomly in the dark, and he chose him because of destiny. This connection is way more subtle and meaningful than the films make it out to be. Spoiler alert! I did like that they kind of kept the thing of Toothless being an important dragon breed, though a Night Fury, not a Siddragonus Giganticus Maximus. Ultimately, it doesn't matter. But what does matter is that he should have been perceived as less valuable or lesser to start with. Though they kind of do that with the thing of dragons being evil, but I can't really comment on that because that's just not in the books. Anyway, then there's the fact of personality change. Toothless is not a real character in the films. He's more of a sidekick plot device. In the books, he is a self-centered, stuttering, hilarious dragon who fully demonstrates the idea that dragons are never grateful, yet in that same way, he brilliantly contradicts it by actually having character growth. In the books, Toothless has a genuine character arc of being selfish and arrogant to, through Woden's Fang Gaiden, who is a legitimate mentor character, so you can't argue that Toothless isn't treated as a character. He becomes an actually well-behaving and selfless character. Snortlout is a bully. Like, literally. He's as if you took the concept of a bully, condensed it into milk, and poured it into a perfectly fine cup of black tea. Snortlout is described as tall, muscly, tattooed, and having a faint moustache. The epitome of an asshole.
Okay, lives up summer street with his mum and his sister.
And are they as big as his?
Who?
The mum and the sister.
Same person.
Snortlout is the antithesis of Hiccup, the perfect teenager rival character. He's good at everything, the perfect Viking. This emphasizes the fact that everyone thinks that Hiccup shouldn't be the heir. He's a Hiccup. Snortlout is Hiccup's cousin, meaning that if Hiccup died, Snortlout would be the next in line to chief, creating tension throughout the first books. Snortlout is desperate for attention and notoriety, bullying those who get any preferential treatment or attention, to prove once and for all that he is better. Now, we get to the character arc section, which I can't really explain without giving major spoilers, but to those who haven't read it, I can say a couple of things. His arc genuinely made me cry, and that's not something most books normally do. Snortlout begins as a bully who hates Hiccup and eventually becomes a genuine enemy of him. Snortlout isn't just a bully, he ends up being a dangerous threat, a rival heir, and, if you read between the lines, a deeply insecure kid grasping for power. Personally, I just think that, as with everything in the films, they watered him down. He has a barely compelling character arc, befriending Hiccup with bare inconvenience, and it doesn't really add much of anything. Hey, do you remember the villains in the How to Train Your Dragon films? I don't. Well, not really. They're basically just caricatures. One's a big guy who screams about controlling the dragons, whilst the other's just a slightly smarter guy who wants to kill dragons because empathy is a weakness. That's fine if you're watching the movie on your phone while doing your laundry, but not if you actually care about the story. That doesn't mean you can't have a physically strong villain, there just has to be some.
Curse your sudden but inevitable betrayal! Mine is an evil laugh. Now die! Oh, no God! Oh, dear God in heaven!
Alvin is a perfect villain. The symbolism of his loss of body parts is an amazing technique. Each time he fights Hiccups, his desire to become powerful strengthens and his humanity degrades as he loses his limbs. By the end, he will literally do anything to become King of the Wilder West, because he believes he is destined to be. He twists people, he undermines them, he makes Hiccup question himself like a good villain should. And just when you thought everything was so messed up, enter Excelenor, his mother. Now, you might say, ooh, a witch, tea, so scary, but she's not what you think about when you think of a witch. They really play into the Viking idea of a witch healer. She actually commands respect. But behind that mask, she's a self-obsessed, power-obsessed bloodline-obsessed narcissist. She's playing the ultimate long game. She's one of the most twisted villains ever. How could the mother of your main antagonist be more terrifying than the actual antagonist? By believing in Alvin so much and lusting for his success so much that she basically forces him into believing that he has to be king. It's one of the most messed up mother-son relationships ever. It's a truly terrifying villain duo. Cressida Cowell's works portray a bustling, fully fleshed out fantasy world. It demonstrates a whole barbaric archipelago that really reveals the true variety of Northern Europe. There are countless different islands, each with their own tribe, culture, and environment. From the freezing, craggy cliffs of Hysteria to the volcanic wastelands of Lava Island, to even the hairy, scary librarian's Meathead Public Library that, if you think about it, isn't all that public. The world feels alive, dangerous, and lived in. The animation and art of the movies are amazing, but they don't do the actual world building justice at all. Additionally, the dragons aren't just all show as they are in the films. There's a deep, real-world feeling natural history. There's hierarchy and ecology. There's true exploration of how dragons interact. There's even the language of Dragonese and the fact that some dragons can actually speak Norse. Hiccup doesn't quickly and easily bond with Toothless like in the movies. Though, granted, they did make a bit of a learning curve, the books take it to a whole nother level. Hiccup has spent his whole life studying the intricacies of dragons and their psychology, and through his eyes we get to see it too. In the movies there's no history, no exploration of other tribes. In the books they even go to America. The films are cool artistically, and don't get me started on the score, but they just don't have the true fleshed out world building books do. The plot of the films are basically just defeat bad guy, yay! With the exception of the first film, there's no real build-up or development of the world at all. The movies just do the blockbuster classic of scaling the action, scaling the stakes, and ditching the intrigue.
29.
Patrick Swayze's just robbed this bank. And Keanu Reeves is chasing him through people's gardens. And he goes to shoot Swayze, but he can't because he loves him so much. And he's firing his gun up in the air. He's like, oh!
30.
Have you ever fired your gun up in the air and gone, ah?
No, I have not ever fired my gun up in the air and gone, ah.
There are times for that, but How to Train Your Dragon isn't one of them. Meanwhile, in the books, there's a slow, resonant build-up throughout them, with an overarching story that doesn't draw you away from the individual book's plot. There are 50 billion layers of foreshadowing, drenching each page, so much so that each read makes it even better. Things that seem insignificant early on come back hundreds of pages later, with major consequences. The plot isn't, oh no, we're under attack, kill the villain. It's, oh no, the freaking world is at the brink of war and the extinction of either humans or dragons. Somehow, we need to save everyone, and the scrawny kid's gotta have something to do with it. Don't even get me started on the book's ending. No spoilers, but it's bittersweet perfection. It doesn't spoon-feed you a happily ever after. It earns its ending through the struggle, sacrifice, and character development that is shown throughout the 12 books. As I discussed before, the How to Train Your Dragon books are a lot deeper and more nuanced. Whilst the films focus on self-discovery, friendship, and overcoming fear, the books explore a vast array of themes and ideas. They're way more mature while still managing to be aimed at kids, which I think is an amazing achievement and really attests to the writing. The first book feels like a silly kid's adventure, and that's the great trick. The series slowly spirals into a grim, world-shaking epic with betrayal, war, and heartbreak. If book one throws you off, push through. The payoff is amazing. Ultimately, the story is about becoming a hero the hard way. I mean, the line is literally repeated like every book. Freedom and slavery are also very much investigated, with the slave brand, dragon markers, and the Red Rage. The underlying message that freedom must be fought for and is a continuous refrain throughout the series. Not the last and definitely not the least, the books explore the idea that you have to keep on trying even though you are beaten before you even start. That's almost an exact quote from the book, and by the end of the series, the world is almost post-apocalyptic in its nature, and Hiccup seems defeated, and yet he keeps on going. Meanwhile, the films struggle to fit their neat little hero's journey action-adventure bow on a box bursting with nuance. The books aren't some perfect fairy tale, they're an amazing representation of the real world through a fantastical one, which is what a story should do. Obviously, I didn't get to everything in this video. There are major characters in the books that are just missing from the movies, like Furious, Woden's-Fang, One-Eye, and Norbert the Nutjob, who each have their own important story. The fact that they left out some of the most amazing characters and stories lets the whole How to Train Your Dragon fandom down. Ultimately, I think the books are significantly better than the movies, but don't be scared to check out both. You'll love them. Tell me what you think in the comments down below. Go read the books, laugh, cry, fall in love with the world, and then come back here to say, yup, the books are better. Thank you for watching. Please don't forget to like and subscribe, as this is my first video. If you haven't read the books, please comment on whether I managed to convince you, and if you have read them, what are some points that I missed? But till next time, goodbye.